Before we dive into today's episode, I have something truly special to share. Next September, I'll be leading an intimate women's retreat through the south of France and northern Italy, and you're invited. Picture this: mornings exploring the colorful markets of the French Riviera, afternoons sipping wine, and a hotel view with golden Mediterranean sunsets. Whether you love photography, food, or just want to reconnect with your playful creative self, this trip is designed for you. Spots are limited, so if all this sounds like your kind of adventure, please visit tourwithabsolutely.com and look for the tour France and Italy with Crystal. You can also send me a message or check out the show notes. Hey guys, my name's Crystal Kenny, and I'm in love with creating. All things artistic and imagination involved. I'm an American girl who chased her creative dreams all the way to Paris, France, making a living using photography. This podcast takes you inside the stories of all the artsy folks I've met along the way and gives you that extra push to discover your creative gifts. The desire to create is deeply inside each and every one of us, and I give you the tools and inspiration to find a new way of living a more creative life. This is La Vie Creative, the podcast. Welcome to the show, Sophia.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
I was so happy when we got connected. Jason's always sending me wonderful people. And I always like to ask people where they came from and what brought them to Paris.
Yeah, I'm from Chicago, Illinois, in the States, and I came to Paris 6 and a half years ago, just because I always really wanted to go try to live somewhere else and learn a new language. And I traveled around a bit and ultimately felt like Paris was really happening and seemed like a good place to try being an artist and live and meet new people. So I kind of chose it just from that.
Definitely. And how did you find it when you first moved here? Was it difficult? Did you find a great creative community right away?
Yeah, I think both, but I was really in the mood to be uncomfortable, so it was less difficult because I wanted it to be difficult, and because I didn't know anyone and didn't know the language, I was just going to open mics all the time because I didn't know what else to do, and so very quickly or rather, that's what I really wanted to do as well, but I didn't have anything else distracting me, so I was just going to poetry and music, open mics, and writing in my room, and so it was a really great way to delve in and meet that community quickly.
Definitely. And there's so many creatives here. And like you said, so many open mics. So you're definitely going to meet other people you can collaborate with and find new
Mhm.
ways to work. I'm sure you've done that as well.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it was really a great fostering, um, they're great incubators for trying out things, but also to build community. They're really incredible.
Now you're a musician, a performer, a writer. We're going to dive into everything. But I want to first start talking about like the range of genres and styles. You do hypnotic rock, you do theatrical punk. Can you describe what initially drew you to experimental music and how you began to blend these diverse influences?
Yeah, well, I mainly started by doing theater. I was doing theater since I was 15, through my early 20s, and would still be interested in doing straight theater. But lately, these past 7-ish years, I've been focusing on my cabaret and my music, and it sort of the freak show cabaret that is the blend of all of these performance styles came about initially from me getting into music because I played alone in my room and loved doing theater and wanted to perform music in front of people as well. So I started going to open mics in Chicago, and I started doing shows, and I didn't want to just announce the song titles and do the songs. I wanted it to have something theatrical about it to weave it together. So it was sort of like transitions, and it was small theatrical things that worked to go from one song to the other, but they expanded more and more to the point where it became its own show. And now when I do the freak show, it's not music heavy. There is music involved, but it's a mix of everything. And I think that's all just born from already coming from theater and really not wanting to choose any one thing. And as soon as I write a folk song, I'm in the mood to write a rap. And as soon as I write a rap, I'm in the mood to make a performance art piece. And then I want to do a dance. And so it's just from being interested in everything and wanting to incorporate it all, really.
Yeah, talk a little bit more about that. You have a one-woman variety show called Freak Show Cabaret. So talk about what happens during this show.
Well, I write a new Freak Show Cabaret for every production. So far, I've never done the same one twice. So a big goal of mine is to really rent out a space that I could do the show at least 2 nights in a row, if not a few weeks or what have you. But I write a new one every time with recurring characters that I've created, and new ones come about when they come about naturally, or dance numbers that I might bring back after I've reworked them. But there's always a lot of improv involved, so that of course keeps it different. And I always have at least a few new numbers, whether they're performance art or dance or clown or magic or whatever that I've never done before. And so it's just again a space where I am able to not bore myself, and I can always be working towards making new things. And it's just a playground for my creativity, that it's a show where I don't have to have a genre or be able to explain something. If there's just a little weird thing I came up with that I want to do that I can't explain, I can put it in my freak show and anything can work in it.
Definitely. I love that. Like you said, a playground. And how has the show evolved since its inception?
Well, as from the beginning, that it was, I would call it Freak Show Cabaret, but it just meant I'm going to play the songs that I have written, and I'll do in between things. And then it kind of evolved into its own show. And um, I only recently, in past maybe 3 years, have actually done dance numbers. I only very recently have started doing more like cl clown work that has been more intentional, and I don't know, different genres that I've been, or performance types that I've been diving into, that have evolved. It's also evolved in the sense that it always used to be just strictly myself, and now I've very often had special guests, and so I'll do the freak show with 1 to maybe 3 featured performers that'll come on and do their own thing. And it's fun to share energy with people and share the space with them. I also can then like do a costume change or prepare something. So it's been really fun to incorporate having other people, even though we're not creating together, which might be a future step. But I might hire like one musician and one burlesque dancer and one clown, or I like to keep it very varied and expand the world of the freak show even further with the special guests.
And why the title of Freak Show?
I remember I was sitting in my room like 5 years ago in whatever apartment I was in Paris, and trying to think of what I was going to call my show. And originally, every time I did a show, I would call it something different. And it was just naming concerts, really. And one day, Freak Show Cabaret came to me. I think it was just because it felt like uh, a wide enough net that it doesn't put me in a hole. If I think a freak show could be a lot of different things, as long as um, somebody feels like it has to do with being a freak, which I mean it affectionately, but just like the freaks in my brain, or the weird things that come to me that I want to put together. And I feel like it's a provocative term, but it's not politically incorrect either. It kind of is borderline in that realm of, I can call myself what I want to call myself. And so it's kind of a celebration of the abnormal or off the beaten path things that I like to create.
Definitely. And it's such a nice combination of many things, your playground. And improv seems to play a significant role in your performances. How do you prepare for like the unpredictable elements of a live performance? How do you prepare for that?
I think the preparation is really to making sure that I don't prepare too much, and to be ready to let things go on a dime if something comes up. There have been some shows where after reflection I thought, I was too like gung ho about this thing I wanted to do, and there was this other thing that happened that I should have just ran with. And so there are moments where that does happen that way, where um, for me, I think the more prepared I am, the the more free I will feel to let it go as long as I remember to let myself be flexible in that way. And I really feel like during a live performance, when unexpected things happen, there's such a gift. Like, at least to me as a performer, I love when the stage is right next to the bathroom and people have to like cross me to go to the bathroom, or I love when I don't know, weird sounds are happening or a light goes out or whatever, something weird happens with an audience member, as long as it's not to the point of being destructive to the show. I don't love somebody super drunk screaming in the room, and no matter what I do, they won't shut up or whatever. But beyond that, I just feel like their great presence of just a situation that can bring things to a new place that, of course, I couldn't predict because I couldn't know what would happen. And it just makes it feel really fresh and fun. So a lot of the improv is inspired by just what happens to happen during the course of the show.
Where do you find the confidence to go on stage and just improv? I mean, it takes a lot of courage. Like, did you always have this courage, or where does it come from?
Um, I don't really know. I mean, I think I feel more comfortable on stage than I do in a social setting, for sure. I feel more confident to interact with people and do whatever and throw myself out there than maybe at a party where I don't really know a lot of people. I'm not shy, but I don't feel that urge to put myself out there in the same way that I do on stage. But when I was a kid, I remember I always was the kid that like wanted my friends to dare me to do things in public, and I always got a rush of like somebody would dare me to like go up to someone when we're in the mall and like tell them something weird or try to make something happen, or I don't even remember the types of things, but it was just like strange social experiments. And it always gave me a rush to interact with strangers and do things like that. So I don't know where it came from, but I feel like that has kind of evolved into me liking to improv and interact with my audience on stage.
Yeah, you do it enough and it doesn't bother you to be in public doing crazy things.
No, it doesn't.
And you have bases in Chicago and Paris. How have these cities influenced your creative output differently? Are there elements from each culture that you find particularly inspiring or challenging?
Yeah, I think well, Chicago was such a great is such a great place for feeling safe in your community. I always have this sense. I mean, I'm more in Paris than I am in Chicago, but I return out of the year, maybe like 3 to 4 months out of the year I'm in Chicago, and I always feel like the community is so strong. I know I'm biased because I come from there, but I really do feel like Chicago has this great uh combination of having so much talent and being like really teaming with artists and creators, but having a really working class mentality and chill. It's not pretentious or, all about image or whatever. So I feel like people are just chill and uh, there to boost each other up for the most part. And there's so much variety that will happen in the same place that I feel like doesn't happen as much in Paris. That you could go to a quote unquote rock show, but there also might be a rapper and they might have someone do a drag performance. And it feels more like a conglomeration of a lot of things can happen in one evening, and it's not so tight with what genre you're doing necessarily. And then Paris, of course, just also has so much talent, so many different people doing different things, so many little random places that you can just go and do a little show and pass your hat, or a little jewel box theater that you can do whatever. And so there's so much opportunity of places and people to meet. So they both have that in common in their own ways. But I think because poetry is so important to me, and I love writing and I love playing with language, and even though I'm fluent in French now, I'm far more drawn to writing in English than in French. I think performing in Paris has really inspired me to play with silence more, which I already really liked, but to go further with that and clown and dance and these things that don't require language. And perhaps I wouldn't have gone as far if I was only in Chicago, because now when I return, it's so crazy when I do things that have my poetry in them, and to like remember, oh right, everybody knows everything that I'm saying. It's not like if I just say it really quickly, nobody's gonna know. and furthermore, maybe that helped me be more honest in my writing because I know that not everybody is always going to understand everything I'm saying. So I perhaps have been more uh, going on a limb with what I say in my poetry for that.
Yeah, it's kind of freeing in a way because, like you said, there's some French speakers, and maybe you're playing with the words that won't be totally obvious what you're saying.
Mhm.
And talk a little bit about how you host Anything Goes open mic and experimental jam every Monday at the Rush Bar. It sounds like you're really committed to fostering a creative community.
Yeah, I mean it sort of happened at very randomly because when I first moved to Paris, I very soon learned about the Rush Bar open mic that has had different hosts, like three or four different hosts over the past, I think something like 10 years. And spoken word, I found both of them. They were both on Mondays, and I would go to one of them first and then end up at the other one and just loved that Monday like crawl of performing and meeting people and everything. And then I hadn't been for a while because I started hosting spoken word, so I wasn't available to go very often on a Monday. And then I ran into the owner who I became friends with when I was going there in the street like 6 months ago or something like that, and or about a year ago. And I asked him how the open mic was going, and he was like, "Oh, it's not happening anymore. Do you want to run it?" And I was like, "Well, sure, why not? We can talk about it." And then we worked it out, and so I never really had thought of doing something like that, but it very quickly became really dear to me. I've been doing it since November, the first Monday of November. And I am just really enjoying having a space where I hope to make people feel safe and hope to blend people who come to do the things that they do best and people who are trying something for the very first time. And I think that that's a great, that's always a great environment to be in when not everybody's a pro and not everyone's an amateur and people can go back and forth of doing things that they're testing for the first time and also showing something that they're proud of and are comfortable with. So yeah, that's it's been like yeah, since November and it's been really lovely to bring people together, be inspired by them, feel happy to make people feel like they're in a safe place. That's all really exciting to me.
Yeah, it's like daring each other over and over again to get up
Yeah.
there and try and just get used to, not being afraid of an audience watching you.
Yeah.
And so with your show, you have poetry, you have drag, you have clowning, you have improv. You're incorporating so many different performance arts. How do you integrate these varied elements to create a cohesive performance? Are there any challenges in that?
Well, I think the thing that helps is that it's not cohesive. I think it's really like I don't have a through line or a storyline. Perhaps in retrospect, after a show, I could look back and be like, I touched on this point many times. Maybe that's been in my mind recently, and that's why that ended up in the show. But I'm never writing it thinking about things to have anything to do with each other. For me, the less that everything has to do with each other, the better. And it just sort of ends up being in the same universe because I'm creating it and it's from my brain. But um, yeah, I feel like it is exactly that there does not need to be cohesiveness in the freak show cabaret, and therefore I feel free to bring anything to it. Like for instance, drag. I've for the first time a few months ago, maybe like 4 or 5 months ago, I created a drag number, and then I have two drag numbers now, and it's not something that it's my version of drag, and or like I said, dancing has not been for a very long time a part of it. So it's also somewhere where I say, okay, like this is my version of this. I am not by any means a pro at any of these things. The only thing I've really studied is theater. So, to, I don't know what other people would think of what they would call certain things, but those are just the closest I can come to calling these certain numbers I create that are from my own self learning and practicing things in my little apartment and making stuff up.
Yeah, there's a lot of freedom to it.
Mhm.
And talk about how Paris has impacted your artistic identity, your output. Has it changed you as an artist?
I would say so. I mean, I didn't do it on purpose, but I happened to move to Paris less than a year into me doing my own art. Like I said, I always did theater and it was like American classics, a little bit of classics outside of America, but straight. like black box theater in Chicago. And so, yeah, like 8 months in before I moved to Paris, I started going to open mics to play my music. I did a number that was like a performance art number for a festival that I created. And I started to get a taste of doing those things and then immediately moved to a country where I don't know the people, I don't know the language. And even if I stayed in Chicago, I would have been on a new journey of doing these things anyway. So I think I don't know, but I imagine it probably helped me feel more free, helped me feel more like I'll just throw myself at the wall. Really, I thought I'll be in Paris for a year max at that time when I moved. That's what I assumed. So I thought, worst case scenario is I somehow make a fool of myself completely and then I just never go back to that city. And it's like, of course, that's never who's going to really be able to turn a whole city against them. And so I was like, I'll just try whatever. And if it doesn't work, fine. And then I'm just going to leave. And then it helped me realize that you could be somewhere your whole life and keep trying stuff that might not work. And so I think being somewhere new at that point in my life, that combination really helped me to feel free and develop doing more daring things, I think.
Yeah, definitely. There's like a safety net where you're like, ah, I just go back, it just doesn't work out.
Yeah.
And talk about some of the biggest challenges you face as an experimental artist.
Um, well, because it has no real genre that I can put it in, or and because it's live experimental art and very hard to capture, it's not so easy to book because I don't really have uh, something like a video that could show what my like ever-changing freak show cabaret would be. I could make one, but that would take, it would be a big budget, I think, or just complicated to figure out. And so I think it can make it difficult for me to find work. And also, I have so many ideas that, again, are out of my uh, budget. When I have a big idea that could take a complicated costume or set piece or whatever. So most of my stuff is very stripped down. And I guess the challenge is having those ideas and then saying, okay, I'm gonna find a way to do this in my stripped down version and keep it in my mind for if one day I'm able to realize it in a more sophisticated way. But yeah, I guess the challenge is just that it's not an easy thing to sell and it takes a lot of work and just have to MacGyver a lot of things to fit into what is realistic for what I can actually produce at this point in time.
Definitely. MacGyver is very much involved. And talk about some of the most rewarding parts of being an artist in Paris.
I mean, I think it's a perfect city for living on the cheap, I think, if you're truly down with that. And I think I really the thing, I mean, it would be so great to have a lot of money so that I could get all of the things that I want for my show, as I just mentioned. But um, to be an artist in a city where it's like normal to pass a hat around for money, even just that I could maybe show up and be like, hey, I have my guitar. Could I just like play in the corner of your little bar and maybe have a beer for free and pass my hat around? And if it's a cool little like neighborhood bar, they very well may be like, yeah, sure, why not? Go for it. And so the fact that it feels available to just go and do something creative, and that like I can live off of like croissants and baguettes and $3 wine. And I love walking around Paris. I find Paris to be incredibly inspiring. Even 6 years in, walking down the same streets I've been walking down for years, sometimes it's like I'm never bored and it inspires my art. So I feel like being an artist here and having these little treats that aren't super expensive and a lot of opportunity to explore and create and work is it's a really special city for those reasons.
Definitely. Going carb crazy is definitely rewarding and affordable. And what advice would you give to aspiring artists who want to explore more experimental music, performance art? What lessons have you learned that could guide them?
I mean, I think in any form, but especially something off the beaten path, experimental, etc., would be just to um, really remember that the worst case scenario is that it just doesn't work and it's okay to do a show or a passage in an open mic or whatever it is and have it not work and like learn from that. Um, and that it's everything is really possible as long as you really want to make it happen. And I think to someone who thinks it could be fun, but they're not really super into it and it sounds too much work, etc., then maybe that's not for them. But for the people who think, I so want to do this, I so want to explore things that are experimental and not easy for me to sell and not easy for me to, etc., how am I going to do it? It's like there's again going back to the fact that there's so many tiny random bars that just might let you go in there and do your thing. It's like just go and talk to somebody and say, "Hey, could I come in this Friday and use your little corner of your bar and like put on this show and you don't have to do anything. I'll just pass my hat around, whatever." And then you just like tell your friends and so it's really possible to put on a show in this city and make it work for yourself and build it up that way. So I would say just don't be afraid to go like be experimental in the ways that you're going to produce a show when you are making experimental stuff that maybe the more mainstream clubs aren't just going to be like, ah, yes, I'll put you on because you sent me this email. And um, so yeah, to not give up because it's not going to be easy to sell or easy to find people that believe in you. There's always a way to make it happen.
Definitely just start small and be active at those like the biggest things. You don't have to go right to the Grand Rex or something big. Like just go for it.
Yeah, and to not be not to get too in your head of what people think. I know that's very cliche and easier said than done, but I think that if one can meditate out of that and realize it's really not that big of a deal if somebody thought you did something dumb because, if you're out here making something and putting it on, you're not hurting anybody, you're being brave, you're being creative. Like if somebody's going to judge you for that, then their priorities are out of whack, I think.
Definitely. And how would you define creativity in your own words?
I think everything is creativity if you feel like it is. I feel that way about like the word poetry. I feel that way about the word art. If somebody looks at a crumpled bag on the ground and says, to me, that's poetry, then I think it is. And so I think if somebody's a mathematician and they feel very creative in the formulas they're coming up with, then I think that's creativity because that's how they feel. So I think it's more of a sensation and excitement of feeling like you're making something or rearranging something or putting things together in a different way and all of that is creativity.
And why do you think art is important in today's society?
I think it's always been important and maybe in in these difficult times these days with all that's going on in the world, it's uh it's so multifaceted. It's um a way to just simply express oneself and get things out of you in a selfish way. Like I think it can be a really great way to process um and just be like self-therapy. And then if you make something for that reason or whatever reason and it resonates with someone else, it can be so therapeutic for that person to say, ah, this artist that I really appreciate made this piece of art that makes me feel like it speaks to my situation. So now I feel less alone, or I've never thought about it the way that they put it in their painting or their song or their poem, whatever it is. So it's a great way to help people feel less alone, help people think about things differently. It's great to just be a simple distraction, and that when times are hard, or we're just simply having a bad day or whatever, most people are going to put on a movie or listen to a song or go to a show or read a book or whatever. And so I think it's it's everything to be able to at least experience art, and for those who are inspired to make it, it's so rich. I think it's always going to be incredibly important. I wish the world would um, be more aware of that and fund it and things like that because I think it's so obvious how much humans need art.
Definitely, it's healing. We need a lot of healing right now.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing with us today. Where can people connect with you, learn more about your work, and listen to you?
Yeah, well, I am Sophia Lucia, Sophia Lucia. You can find my stuff on Spotify, YouTube, SoundCloud, Bandcamp, etc. There is another person that has the name Sophia Lucia. She's a dancer and she kind of has the monopoly on our names. So you might have to scroll a little bit, but if you put in my name and put music or something, you should find it. And on Instagram, I am Freak Show Cabaret, like my show. I have a show this Thursday in Paris at TDTF. It's a club in the 19th arrondissement. I play about once a week, concerts. I have a freak show cabaret on May 15th at Le Caverne Club at Pont Neuf. So all of these things you could find on my Instagram, on my Facebook page, uh, on my Linktree website, which is also Sophia Lucia Freak Show Cabaret. So those are the keywords to find my stuff anywhere on the internet.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much for sharing. And so funny about the monopoly on your name. It's a shared name. It's a great name, but you guys know where to find her. And make sure you guys tune in next week. Thanks so much for tuning in to La Vie Creative. You can find more information on MissParisPhoto.com. And if you enjoyed this show, please feel free to share and spread the word for all my creative guests. We have the power to help them to keep doing what they love. See you next time.